This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring the 2021 AFCA Regional Power of Influence Award winners. These coaches include Lou Marinelli from New Canaan High School in Connecticut, Gary Rankin from Boyd Buchanan High School in Tennessee, Jake Gilbert from Westfield High School in Indiana, Bill Blankenship from Owasso High School in Oklahoma, and Tim Brennan from Bishop Kelly High School in Idaho. In this episode, these coaches discuss the powerful impact high school coaches have on young athletes, highlight the difference between coaching at the high school level compared to the college level, and detail the elements that make a successful team. But before that, a reminder that you can catch the 2022 AFCA convention sessions virtually on the AFCA Digital Library website. So if you'd like to re-watch one of the sessions or listen to one of them for the first time, make sure you are an AFCA member so you can gain access to all this premier content at afca.com. Now, let's get inside the headset.
I'm extremely excited to be with you here today. I'm Todd Berry, Executive Director of the American Football Coaches Association. The reason why I'm excited is I'm honored to sit with these five gentlemen who are all high school award winners from this year, our Regional Coaches of the Year. A Power of Influence Award was established a few years ago as an opportunity for us to acknowledge the high school coach. I think one of the things that we can all be moved by is the fact that our high school coach made such a huge impact on us. And so we're so appreciative of these individuals. It's probably one of the reasons why we got into coaching to begin with. And so we're going to just have a little dialogue, have a little conversation. First of all, let me say on behalf of the whole AFCA and all of our coaches, gentlemen, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good for you. Very proud, again, to be up here with you. So I want to talk about a couple things. And first and foremost is the experience of being a high school coach. I know that some of you had both experiences, but I'd like for you to just kind of talk about the special relationship at that age, because I think that is one of the most important parts of this, is dealing with the age group that you're dealing with and that opportunity to really to develop the young people. And so Lou, let's start with you.
Well, I think the reason I got into coaching was somebody when I was young kind of straightened me out. And he did such an impressive job that I said, that's what I want to do. And being a high school coach now, I was in college, but I don't know that I had the effect on kids at that level that I did at the high school level. I have kids coming into my office just last week and said, where am I going to go, Coach? What do you think? What can I do? And it's that kind of thing. But it's not only just being in the school community. It's not only the football players, but it's amazing how many teachers, how many administrators, how many kids just come in and just to talk because they have different problems. And I think as football coaches, we're all problem solvers. And the fact that they look to you like that, and they want to make sure that they have someone that they can trust that's going to be able to help them. And I think that's the thing. That's the reason I've been doing it.
I love the fact that you said that you talked about problem solvers. I just had an athletic director this last week. We were part of a committee call with NCAA, and afterwards we were talking offline. He said the one thing that I've learned here over the last couple of years in dealing with you and some of the coaches is the fact that, hey, if you want to get something done, is you need to put your football coaches on it, because we're going to get it done, people. That's probably one of the best compliments I think I've ever heard from a coach's standpoint. Gary, I'm going to ask you the same question, because I think everyone's going to have maybe some similar thoughts, but also some different feelings. And so let's talk, Gary, if you don't mind.
I think there's no doubt it's all about relationships. When all of us first got in here, my main objective when I first started was to get a paycheck. I wasn't worried about any kids. I was trying to feed myself. As you grow in your career and you figure out really your responsibility and how these kids look up to you, you are a problem solver with a lot of different problems. From you got to be a daddy, you got to be a counselor, you got to be a matchmaker. You have to do it all. And it's a great profession. My own kids grew up in it. They grew up on the football field. just the relationships that you can have with those guys. And it's not just players, too, when you get to our age. It's our assistant coaches. In the last 15 years, the job that I've been at, we've probably had 8 or 9 or 10, children born with assistant coaches. And to see those guys grow, those younger guys grow as coaches, grow as husbands, fathers and stuff, is just, it's so meaningful. So, it boils down to it's all about people. It's about relationships, and a great way to live a life, no doubt.
Yeah, it's amazing how we all become so much of a family because, as you mentioned earlier, our paycheck's kind of dependent upon that too. So, Gary, same question. What's really moves you about being in the high school sphere?
Well, like Coach had said, my head coach was just immensely influential in the impact he had on my life, and so I got into coaching to pay it forward and give back on the level he had given to me. My favorite part, what moves me the most, is really taking a kid from a youth kid through a high school experience and just trying to help them reach their full potential. So that's the part I enjoy the most, the kids that I know the longest, and see the development as people, the development as leaders, the development as players, as athletes, just as kids, and trying to raise the lid on their full potential and doing that together and being there to celebrate when that happens for them.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time, I think, in the maturation of the kid, right? I mean, you see them go from 5'2" to all of a sudden 6 foot. And what they realize, in terms of that, I think you're right. So, Bill, same question.
Todd, I think most of us are in coaching because of the coaches that influenced our lives in some way or shape or form. I am a second generation, much like you, and my dad was a coach. What was lost on me growing up was that he had grown up in a home with a single, uneducated mom, had a alcoholic dad that had mistreated him and all kinds of things. He had everything going against him. And he and his brothers found a way to get an education. They found a way to stay in school. They got their master's degrees. They became coaches. They gave it back. I didn't even know that story for so long. And that's important because my kids and grandkids have a different life because of, you would have never dreamed what had happened. And so it hits me that we have that opportunity. There's a kid that's being raised, and I just wanted to help that kid, and I'd not been aware of the opportunity for us until I thought back to my dad of how we can change generations by just having an impact on that kid. My dad claims, and again, his mom told him the same thing, her whole goal was to keep the kids in school and keep them in church, and it was other people that came alongside to get them to have some tennis shoes, to play ball, to play football, to do all those things that, again, eventually worked out for them. And so that's been the opportunity, especially kind of like Coach said, about the last 15 years or so, it's been different for me. I see it in a different role than I did, because there ain't no doubt. When I first started, it was about the paycheck and finding a way to get to next month.
Try to win.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to follow up, Bill, if you don't mind, with you on this, because you have had kind of a unique experience of also being a collegiate head coach.
Right.
And very quickly, differences between collegiate head coach and high school head coach?
Well, the biggest thing is the parents. You deal with the parents in recruiting at the college level, but not the everyday deal that you have to do sometimes at the high school level. And the other side, I think you have, in most cases, we have a little more help. And it sounds weird when I say it that way, but I've got counselors and I've got principals and I've got people that do a lot of those pieces. And seemed like for the short while I was a head football coach in college, I'd put that phone down at night and hope it didn't go off. Because I'm going to get a call from somebody that I don't want to get a call from.
No, I did it for 16 years, so I'm right there with you. You hit that nail on the head there. Right. Tim, same question. What's makes the high school sphere so special?
Well, like all of the coaches have mentioned, it's about relationships. And as I look back to when I started, I've grown so much as a coach, because You used to worry about little things and different things, and now it's about developing those relationships and letting those kids know and those players know that you love them, but you're going to hold them accountable, and they grow. They grow from that. And then, obviously, I've been very fortunate to be at the same school for a lot of times, and then I get to coach their kids. I get to coach a dad, and then their son comes through, and you get to tell them stories about their dad as he was in high school. Some of those stories maybe you can't tell them, but it's just about relationships. And then, coming to a convention and running into a kid that you coached that's now coaching at a college someplace. It's just, that's what life's about, is developing those relationships and caring about people and loving each other. And, football does that for us. It is a sport that takes care of those things.
I appreciate that too. Great answers, guys. Next one, you can go off any direction you want with this, but I always kind of found it really, really interesting when you had one of those special seasons. And again, if there was a blueprint, then you'd have one every year. But there's really not. There's some things that all of a sudden happen during the season. And so I just kind of want to try to maybe identify some of those. And so, Coach Marinelli, can you recall back to one of your special teams, one of those great seasons, and said, you know what, this is why that team was great?
And it's really hard today because I think the parents' expectations have changed somewhat. And to get a group of young men today, I had a special team this year that there was one Division I kid, but everybody else, they just enjoyed being together. They enjoyed practice every day. They held each other accountable. It wasn't something that the coaches had to do, but it was player-led. And they just wanted to perform. They couldn't wait for Friday night. And, not only when you have that, but when you have the coaches feeling the same way about it. I mean, that's really special. And then, like, I recruit the parents. A lot of schools or a lot of coaches don't want anything to do with the parents, but I recruit, they're part of the team because they're going through it for the first time as well, many of the parents. So I make committees and I put them, they do pregame meals for us and set up church services, things like that. And so it's not just our kids, but it's our support staff, or our entire school, our entire town. And the special teams that I've had, I think they're all special. I still, I can't wait till next year to start all over again. But I think they're all special. You just have to find the right combinations of kids and make the right decisions to make it special for them, where they feel that.
Yeah. Coach Rankin, same question.
I've had so many outstanding seasons and so many outstanding events, but I think the one thing that sticks in my mind was coaching my own children. I had two sons come through our program, and one of them played offensive line, which, you hear those horror stories all the time about coaches coaching their own kid and stuff. If you've got one that's playing, just hope he's in the offensive line, because nobody cares. Nobody's going to question if he's the best one. They don't even know. If he's a quarterback, let somebody else coach him, I guess. But I was fortunate enough to coach two of my sons. The navigation through that season with their mama got a little difficult at times. You had to walk easy at times, and my younger son, I got to coach him, and thankfully he was a kicker, so it was pretty obvious. It is either this or this, and there wasn't any question about it. Is he the best one? And he was the best one. But I think that, like I say, being able to coach my own sons and what they got out of our program and the way that they handled themselves, because it is different. And I asked some people before I coached my own sons, because I had seen some bad situations with coaches and their sons. And, I made a decision when my sons played football. Once we left that campus, there was no football talk. And I stayed with that for 8 years, actually. And it was the best thing they ever did. And it kept the relationship like it should be.
Yeah.
Like it should be.
Yeah. Coach Gilbert, same question.
Yeah, I think the special teams we've had, by the time your team is in the playoffs, not only are you playing your best football, but your team really just comes together. And something just clicks on a level throughout your entire program. The parents are behind you on those years. There's less dissension. There's no arguing over roles within the team. We do themes and various things, but it just seems like you're rowing in the same direction, and everyone is confident and builds belief that we can do it, and it's a priority for the team members. And so on the years where you make it to the championship, or you just have a really special group, everybody's pretty much committed to the same cause, and that makes it a lot of fun to coach.
Yeah, common goal and common expectations, right?
Very much so.
Coach Blankenship.
Well, I think when I think back to the best memories of the best teams, it's all about those guys that came together. If you could have the pixie dust and sprinkle the magic, we'd all have that recipe. But trying to create that, is fun for me every year. And I know what it looks like. I know what it's like when you have to run kids out of the locker room, because they've been hanging out. They just want to be together. The magic you see every once in a while when you see seniors and juniors going out and working with freshmen to help them potentially take their job, but to train kids how we do things. And you kind of get that player-led stuff. That's usually magic in the making.
Right. Yeah. That's true. Coach Brennan, everybody, just great answers. Coach Brennan.
Well, there's, every year you coach and every season you have, there's special things about that team. But as I think back to some of those maybe experiences that are really maybe you just remember a little bit more. A lot of times too, as you go through a season, there's adversity. And I remember years when, I remember when my players lost a family member, lost a parent, and how they come together to help each other and watch their brothers on the team just take that kid and make him and help him get through every day. And especially the last couple of years has been difficult, and watching these kids help each other get through these times. And so that's the thing that is just so special, that gives me chills, is when those guys just love each other and take care of each other and get up in the morning and go to practice and go home at night, and that's what it's about.
That's right.
Most special thing to be a part of a team, isn't it? Most special thing. Last question. This one's going to be a surprise to everybody. So I guess first one out. But I had my first convention was in 1981. Okay. And it was a huge moment for me. And I've had several since that time frame over all these years of coming to the convention. But just real quickly, can you identify kind of the moment that at the convention, that something that maybe changed your direction, changed your outlook, was an epiphany for you? Lou?
Well, the athletic director that hired me always wanted me to go to the convention, and I had young children at the time, and I always felt guilty. But then when I finally did come, and I've been since, I think it's like 1990, every year I've come. I always leave here feeling better about my profession. It's almost like going on a retreat. And, you get to talk to coaches, and you get to hear college coaches, some of the best in the profession, and you feel good about what you're doing. And you feel good about, and you're energized. When I go back, I'm sure I'm going to be on Monday, or I'm sorry, the next week when I get back, I'm going to have kids in my office, and I'm going to be excited to go again. It kind of recharges you, and that's the thing. And the contacts you make here, where, you never know who can help a kid either get into school, find a job, whatever. But that to me, I look forward to this every year.
Well, good. Gary.
I don't know if the question was at this convention, but I remember my very first high school clinic, and I just got out of college, and I think it was at the University of Tennessee, and there was about 7 or 8 blackboards, and y'all are old enough to know what blackboards are. They're not whiteboards. There was blackboards, and there was people listed up there looking for jobs. And I remember counting them. There was over 200 and something on there looking for jobs. And I thought, I will never get a job. And this hit me about, I guess, a couple of years ago. We went into a place, and there was boards up again, but it was schools that was looking for coaches. And it just tells you, and it's scary in a way, where our sport's going, and we got to keep getting young guys into this profession. And if you look around, sometimes you don't see as many of those guys. But I mean, you used to have a hard time getting a job. You can get a coaching job now. The pool's not as big as we'd like for it to be, and and I try to do it at our school, trying to get college kids coming over to help us coach and get as many young kids as we can in our profession. But that hit me pretty hard a couple of years ago when I noticed there just wasn't many out there trying to get jobs.
Right.
And it's in different areas, I'm sure, in different parts of the country. But in Tennessee right now, it's a chore trying to find coaches sometimes.
Jake?
My first AFCA clinic, had the pleasure of hearing Mike Singletary speak, and he talked about how committed he was to being a strong husband and father. And then a few years back, Dabo Sweeney and Coach McCorvey, those guys spoke at an FCA breakfast. And basically my takeaway was, if at the highest of levels, these guys can coach excellent football programs and still be committed Christians, husbands, fathers, Amen, then surely I can at the high school level.
Amen.
Yeah, I remember that convention. They were like back to back. It was like a moving, right? Yeah. Bill?
I started coming in the 80s. I was a straight high school coach, but I had a friend, Steve Spavital, who was really his dad had been involved in coaching, so AFCA was a big deal, and came, and I was blown away, and so encouraged to be around, all of the legends of the game. And there were a lot more head coaches that would hang out in the lobby in those days, and you would just see them everywhere. And much like you, Coach, I had Bobby Bowden was he was the godfather to me of a guy that was doing it at a high level and never backed away from his faith. All of that was a big deal. And so he's this giant of a man to me. And I got on an elevator and Bobby Bowden walks on, and he's like this tall. And I'm like, how can that be that this giant of a man is only that tall? But I think it also hit me that's kind of what we get to do, is to be around giants. That maybe it's not how tall we are, but those guys have influence. And
big shoes.
Just for us to be able to be a part of that's pretty cool.
I know. Yeah, it's with the convention growing every year. It is harder to see those guys, even though they might be around. It's it's significantly larger. Tim?
Well, I've come to this for several years and a lot of different clinics and different conventions, but I think the thing is it kind of reinforces what we do. It kind of says, okay, I'm excited to go back tomorrow and talk to kids and get them excited and all those types of things. And then there's times also too that you run into a college coach that tells you a story about a kid that you coached that played for him. And sometimes I didn't even know that kid was going to graduate from high school, and he made it, and he went to college, and he graduated, and it's just rewarding, and it, as we all do, the things that you think about in the history that we've had and the players and the relationships, you just get chills, because it's just about the people that I got to meet today, on this committee or on this group, and it's just amazing experience, and that's why we do what we do.
Well, gentlemen, like I said, to start this, it's been a tremendous honor to be up here with you. Very proud to say that I'm a coach alongside you guys. I know that you're, as everyone demonstrated, it's all about kind of commitment and heart, and you guys are certainly having. So congratulations. I think it's a huge honor, and we appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com, where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Inside the Headset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit afcainsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter at Coach Mario Price, and remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.